There are four types of Jews we know about today: the Ethiopian Jews, the Sephardic Jews, the Mizrahi Jews, and the Ashkenazi Jews. The Bible can tell us about all three of these Jews in different ways, but that's not the most important thing that I think about. Let's think about DNA. If we look at DNA, we know that Ethiopian Jews are clearly black, right? That's obvious and that's done. Sephardic Jews are a little more complicated than that. If we go to Yemen, which is close to Ethiopia, we see that those Jews have black African DNA as well, but they don't have the same DNA that the Ethiopian Jews have. Let's compare two things: the Bible and what they say about the Jews and Ethiopians, and DNA evidence. Starting with DNA evidence, we read Southern Arabian and Horn of Africa are an important geographic center for the study of human population history because a great deal of migration has characterized these regions since the first emergence of humans out of Africa. Analysis of Jewish groups provides a unique opportunity to investigate more recent population histories in this area. Mitochondrial DNA is used to investigate the maternal evolution history and can be combined with historical linguistic data to test various population histories. In this study, we essay mitochondrial control region DNA sequence and diagnostics coding variant in Yemenite N equals 45 and Ethiopian N equals 41 Jewish populations, as well as in neighboring non Jewish Yemeni N equals 50 and Ethiopian previously published Semitic speakers populations. We investigate their population histories through a comparison of haplogroup distribution and phylogenetic networks. A high frequency of sub Saharan African L haplogroup was found in both Jewish populations, indicating a significant African maternal contribution, unlike other Jewish diaspora populations. However, no identical haplotype were shared between the Yemenite and Ethiopian Jewish populations, suggesting very little gene flow between the populations and potentially distinct maternal population histories. These new data are also used to investigate alternative population histories in the context of historical and linguistic data. Specifically, Yemenite Jewish mitochondrial diversity reflects potential descent from ancient Israeli exiles and shared African and Middle Eastern ancestry, with little evidence for large scale conversion of local Yemeni. In contrast, the Ethiopian Jewish populations appears to be a subset of a larger Ethiopian population, suggesting descent primarily through conversion of local women. The interesting thing is that the Yemeni Jews are only huge in the United States and Israel. There's not many of them living actually in Yemen, probably due to the Islamic expansion, you know. And you see there, Bahrain has five, Yemen has five, United Arab Emirates has 42, United Kingdom has 396. These Yemeni Jews differ very much genetically from other Jewish populations, including the Ethiopian Jews, even though they have black African ancestry. This is interesting because they are probably one of the biggest candidates for the original Jews, especially since they're mentioned in the Bible, talked about through Solomon and Saba or Sheba of Saba, Queen of Sheba, which doesn't she doesn't have a name. In Ethiopia, I think they call her Queen Makeba, but she actually doesn't have a name. In Yemen, there's a word called Melkelu, I think, which means leader, but this connection has never fully been established. So if we look at the Bible, what we will see is the mention of these people. So in Amos chapter 9, it says, I saw the Lord standing beside the altar, and he said, smite the capitals that the threshold may shake, and break them in pieces on the head of all of them. And the last of them I will slay with the sword. There will not flee away of them one fugitive, and not one of them will escape if they break through into Sheol. Thence my hand will take them, and if they climb up to heaven, thence I will break them down. And if they hide themselves in the top of Carmel, thence I will search them out and fetch them. And if they conceal themselves from my sight at the bottom of the sea, thence I will command the serpent, and he shall bite them. And if they go into exile before their enemies, thence I will command the sword, and it shall slay them. And I will set mine eyes upon them for evil, and not for good. For the Lord Jehovah of hosts is he who touches the earth, and it melts, and all its inhabitants mourn, and it rises like the Nile, all of it, and sinks again like the river of Egypt. It is he who builds his chambers in the heaven, and has formed his vault upon the earth. He who calls the waters of the sea and pours them upon the earth. Jehovah is his name. Now listen to this part. Are ye not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? It is the oracle of Jehovah. Did I not bring Israel up from the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker? Behold, the eyes of the Lord Jehovah are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from the face of the earth, saying that I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob. It is the oracle of Jehovah. For lo, I will command, and I will shake the house of Israel among all the nations, as one shakes with a sieve, and not a grain will fall to the ground. All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword, who say, calamity will not overtake or come near us. In that day I will raise up the hut of David, which has fallen down, and close up its breaches and its ruins. I will raise and I will build it up as the days of old, that they may possess the remnants of Edom and all the nations on whom my name has been called. It is the oracle of Jehovah who is about to do this. Okay, so I want you to keep in mind what he does here in this verse. Let's read it again. Are you not as the children of the Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? It is the oracle of Jehovah. Did I not bring Israel up from the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Ker? Behold, the eyes of the Lord Jehovah. Okay, so what he does here is he mentions the groups that belong to him, and how he saved them from their enemies, and he mentions Ethiopians as part of his people. So he says, are ye not as the children of Ethiopians unto me, O children of Israel? And then he says, did I not bring you up from the land of Egypt? So here he's saying that the Egyptians are not his people. He brought them out. And the Philistines, which are his people, from Caphtor, which are the enemies, and the Syrians, which are his people, from Ker, which are his enemies. You can see here that the Ethiopians are included as part of God's people in the Bible. These groups are not surprising given the fact that this is the Bible acknowledging the Ethiopians as God's people, and they are Ethiopian. Another verse will show us this. And here's another one. For I, Jehovah, am thy God, Israel's Holy One, thy deliverer. For I, Jehovah, am thy God, Israel's Holy One, thy deliverer. I give Egypt as thy ransom, Ethiopia and Saba for thee, since thou art precious in my sight. And finally, it says here, but an angel of the Lord spoke to Philip, saying, Arise and go to the ward, the south on the way that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. This is a desert region. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch, a state officer of Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who was over all her treasures, who had come to Jerusalem to worship, was returning and sitting in his chariot, was reading the prophet Isaiah. And the Spirit said to Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot. And Philip ran to him and heard him reading Isaiah the prophet. So you can see here again another Jew, Ethiopian Jew. This, by the way, is the part where this Ethiopian Jew is converted to Christianity. So you can see here that clearly there's in the Bible, I'm not saying this is all fact, but in the Bible, there is an association between Jews, Ethiopians, and Sabaeans as part of the diaspora, or at least the people held within the arms of God. Now, again, this is the Bible. None of this I'm taking as fact. I'm just showing you that there's a general theme to have Ethiopians not be weary. There's parts where he smites Ethiopians, but the one we read earlier, he was smiting Israelis. So God is a smoter anyway. So why does this matter? Well, the reason why it matters is because I want to show you that there's a real connection between the land of Israel, those places like Philistine, Edomites areas, and all of those places are next to Syria and Israel, so those are occupied by one area. Yemen, which is Saba, and you can see again the Saba people are associated with these Judea people in the Bible, and you can see that the Ethiopians are associated with the people in the Bible, and I find it very interesting that all three of these people have Ethiopian DNA and that their homeland is that area, and you do not hear any mention of Europeans or anything like that. Now, if we go further into the not the Bible, but further into the DNA, we will find that most Yemeni people have some level of black DNA, some percentage of black DNA. And interestingly, the further away you go from Africa, the more DNA they have, and then it peters off again down to, zero, and then you go into Oman and places like that. The people who are in Yemen are also closer to other Middle Eastern populations in a way that some populations in the Middle East who have an extra Eurasian or extra Europe DNA don't. So they do classify a very ancient people indeed. So here, what we're looking at is something very interesting. And I'm not saying this concludes anything. I'm just saying it's very interesting considering all the things that I've shown you so far.